Hi there, this is Jacoby. It looks like we are recording now, and this is my first time using this screen recorder software. So I hope everything's working right. If anything goes wrong, please bear with me. So, hello from Odessa, Ukraine. If you can see me in the small window there, this is Project Odessa Life. What is Project Odessa Life? It's basically the name of my blog. My blog is projectodessalife.com, and it's where we keep people updated once a month on the ministry that God is doing here in our lives in Odessa, and some random other postings there as well. Sometimes we do different video projects from time to time, and some random blogging. So Project Odessa Life is not the name of official name of a ministry or anything like that. So some people have made checks out to that name before, and it doesn't work well. So we are with International Messengers, which is a missions agency based out of Clear Lake, Iowa, and they have a missionary training center in Montana and one here in Odessa as well, the Eastern Europe School Missionary Training Center here. And they specialize primarily in English camps and sports type outreach or sports camps, but they do other things as well. It's an interdenominational missions agency with most of their missionaries based out of Poland and Eastern Europe, and it's growing though, and so there are others in other places. So enough explaining what we are and who we're working with, and we'll get started. If I can get my PowerPoint working right here. Oh, there it goes, but then I lost my video. Oh boy. Okay, 1 second here. 1 second. We will get this figured out. There's that, and then open this. Bring this back over, click here, and it should work. Okay, my wife and I were married in April 23rd, almost 2 years ago exactly. We were actually married in Odessa. My wife is from Odessa, has lived here her entire life, and had a dream to be a missionary. I had a dream to be a church planter and a preacher for many years, and then we met. I came here to meet her actually, and got connected with her church, and went through their missionary training center and praying and asking the Lord what He'd have us to do. We just believed that He wanted us to stay in Odessa, and had a heart for the culture, had a heart for the people here, had no desire really to return to America. So yeah, in 2 years, soon we'll be married for 2 years, and it's been a blessed marriage. We're both very happy to be together, very happy to be serving the Lord together, and once we're married for 2 years, in just a few more weeks here, I will be able to apply for permanent residence in Ukraine and no longer have to go through the process for applying through a missionary visa, which last year actually became pretty complicated. So just a few quick facts about myself. A picture of me here when I was preaching at the English summer camp when we were interning at Living Hope Church. I was radically saved from a heinous life of sin in 2002. Graduated from Calvary Chapel Bible College in 2007 with plans to plant a church someday somewhere. Didn't know how, and been kind of going around praying and living actually in different cities, trying to determine where it was God was calling me to go. In 2010, God brought me to Odessa, Ukraine. My wife, Lera, she was baptized when she was 15 years old. When she was 19 years old, listening to a missionary speak, she received a strong desire to be a missionary, and that's all that she's wanted to do. And she has a degree in teaching, and she's almost done here. In just a couple more months, she'll be done with a degree in translation and linguistics. So what do we believe? We believe Jesus' great commission to His disciples to go into all the world and make disciples of all nations is a command given to all who desire to follow Jesus and be his disciple. We believe God is a God on mission, and we are to be a people on mission. And just as he sent Jesus, so sends he us. We believe that as Abraham was blessed to be a blessing, so too are we blessed to be a blessing to the world. We believe since before time began, God has planned that his name should be glorified before all the nations. All the nations. This is seen numerous times in the Old and New Testament. We believe that Christ's return is contingent upon all nations having heard the gospel, and that one day every tribe, tongue, language, and nation will worship the Lamb as described in the book of Revelation. We believe, according to these passages and a passage in 2 Peter, that we are able to hasten the coming of the day of the Lord. We believe this is the commission of the entire church, not to be left to a select few. And if you believe this as well, would you join us in working in harmony with our prayers? Maranatha, come, O Lord. So I have this little prayer list. I actually have this PDF in one of the handouts that you'll either have available in your email or right there in front of you, depending on who's presenting this presentation to you. How can you be praying for Ukraine? I just highlighted a few of them because I have an extensive list. For the prayer warriors out there, you can pray for the salvation of souls, of course. You can pray for a clear and true gospel here in Ukraine. There's very distorted views of the gospel and what it takes for men to be saved from the Orthodox Church and from some legalistic church, and just some interesting representations of the so-called quote-unquote gospel in the different larger denominations in this country. Pray against the major abortion problem. Pray against corruption. There's lots of corruption in the government, the schools, the police force, and in business, etc. Please pray for the economy. It is doing, okay, I guess you could say, but it still needs a lot of help. Since the Soviet fall in the 90s, they went through some severe problems, and then with the economic collapse, or the economic crisis, I should say, in the United States about 5 or 6 years ago, and other countries in Europe were affected, and Ukraine was one of those. Please pray against alcoholism and drug addiction, which is especially bad here. They say that, I think, if things continue as they are, that soon Ukraine will be the drunkest nation on earth. Pray for the people with HIV and AIDS. Ukraine has the highest AIDS rate in all of Europe, and Odessa, the city where we are, has the highest rate in all of Ukraine. Now, that may have changed. There's been lots of preventative measures, people trying to distribute clean drug needles and different things, educational materials for people. So it may have changed, but we still definitely need prayer in that area. Pray for the orphans and for better programs for them. They have really terrible programs for the orphans. So they grow up, they become 16, 17, 18, go out into the real world, and many of them enter lives of crime, prostitution, attempted suicide, end up in jail, things like that, because they just really aren't loved in the orphanages, aren't taught really well how to take care of themselves. Please pray for the homeless kids who are sometimes might be kidnapped or sold into sex or labor slavery. So pray against the sex trafficking and labor trafficking market. Please pray against abusive husbands. I hear that it's very common here for the husbands to be abusive and domineering. And please pray for God to move and to reform this city and this nation. In 2007, Ukraine had between 100,000 and 500,000 orphans, and upon being released from their orphanages at the age of 16, 70% of them became criminals, 50% became prostitutes, 33% became homeless or unemployed, 80% of those who married divorced, and 30% attempted suicide within the first 2 years. Given all the clear needs in Ukraine, my wife and I have decided to be full-time missionaries in Odessa and to make worshipers of Jesus in Ukraine, provoked by the glories of the gospel. We're engaging ourselves in the culture through language learning, one-on-one discipleship, English clubs and camps, homeless outreach, Bible teaching, and other ministries. Please pray for the Spirit to accompany the gospel and penetrate the hearts of men and women in Ukraine. In the fall of 2011, we both took a missionary training at the Seaside Missionary Training Center in Odessa, Ukraine, a ministry of International Messengers. Right after that, in the spring, I traveled to the U.S. for 3 months without my wife, who was denied the tourist visa there at that time, and was just raising a support base to back us up and send us out, people to back us up in prayer, which is our greatest need. I would never imagine succeeding at doing God's work without people joining us in prayer. So most importantly, that's definitely what we're asking people to do, is to join us in prayer and to partner with our vision in this way. And we're building a financial support base, of course, and God did definitely provide us a good amount of monthly support, mostly one-time gifts, which got us through, gave us a cushion and got us through 6 months of interning here as missionaries. And after 6 months, our cushion kind of ran out, which was in January. But our support has definitely, monthly support and some more one-time gifts have come in, and it's steadily increasing. It seems that God wants us to be here because He is providing, but we still have a little ways to go to reach our goal and to fill the need. So after I was done raising support, I returned to Ukraine, and we began interning with Living Hope Church, who had actually been serving for some time informally before the internship began. And so our ministries involved translation. Led us a translator, and she would translate for, during the worship, during English clubs, during preaching on occasion, I believe. And she sang on the worship team as well, which is one of her the main things that she helped with. And then she took turns with other girls serving in the children's ministry. And she's really good with kids. Kids really take well to her, really like her. So I believe this is one of her gifts. She also helped to co-lead and host a women's Bible study on Friday nights at our home, which was going for quite some time. And then one-on-one discipleship. Not all the people in this picture are necessarily being discipled by us. Some of them are. Some of them are still unbelievers who hang out with me from time to time, practice learning their English, and that may even entail reading the Bible or reading some Christian books, or just talking about life in general or God. I definitely don't pull any punches when it comes to discussing the things of God with people. Here's English clubs that I was heavily involved in helping a team to organize and execute, to lead, to teach, to plan activities, to plan PowerPoint presentations and discussion questions, and then just being intentional about building relationships, spending time with people, inviting them to hang out, and just having an open door policy, inviting new people into our lives, and then helping to host and organize and just be present at different social events through the church, having people over to our home for Thanksgiving, Mexican food parties, tie-dye shirt parties, girls' crafts, going to the park for picnics, however we can be creative and hospitable. We really love to do that. And then just building relationships with friends, whether it's getting together and reading the Word together, playing games, watching movies, playing chess, going on outings somewhere in the city, building relationships. Preaching and teaching. Preaching and teaching, I did some of that. Here I am in this picture at the English camp. I'm teaching a lesson on introduction to the Bible. There's many unbelievers sitting at this table, some younger believers, some not so young. But that's what I was doing here, was teaching an introduction to the Bible. Here I was teaching, I'm not sure, I think it was a Tuesday night or a Sunday morning service. I cannot remember. So with the guys, there was 4 guys that were leading the church I was interning at, and we took turns kind of on a rotation, so to speak, depending on the schedule. Different people were preaching or teaching. And so I included in this presentation a few testimonials from friends of ours. I thought that would be a good idea so you could see how God was working in people's lives for us. This is Tanya, who came to English camps the last 2 years. And it's really awkward for me to read what other people are saying about us. But for sake of not making you read it, I'll just read a few things here. She's known us for about 2 years. She says, I'm thankful to God that God sent us into her life, and that we've encouraged her when she was about to give up and helped to bring her back when she went the wrong way. She says, sometimes I feel they care about me more than I do about myself. I wonder who else would ask me every day whether I attended university or church. And that would be my wife, who does that. We studied the gospel, and I've always asked thousands and thousands of questions. Most of them were really stupid ones. They weren't actually. She asked really, really, really great questions. And then she says, learning more about God helped me realize how great He is, how great His love, and what an idiot I've been. And she quotes Ezekiel 36:31 that says, then you will remember your evil ways and your deeds that were not good, and you will loathe yourselves for your iniquities and your abomination. We love Tanya. She's a good friend of ours. She lives just a few blocks from us, and so she comes over frequently, or is even helping us some in ministry with translation now, because she actually studies English at her school. This is Kate, her schoolmate, who also lives near to us, has also become a big part of our lives and a close friend of ours. Kate was born again this summer at English camp. She says, when I first met Jacoby and Lyra, I could not even think that these 2 people will become my good friends and play an important role in my life. When I say an important role, I don't only mean friendship and meeting for a cup of tea. I also mean that they helped me with the most important thing I could ever have, my relationship with God. I opened my heart to God not so long time ago, and I think that it would not happen so easily if these 2 people were not with me at that very moment and now. They explained to me what God has done for me and why I need Him. They helped me to believe and supported me as a newborn Christian, and still they keep supporting me. They laugh with me when I'm happy, and still they're around and rub my tears when I cry. They encourage me not only by words, but by their actions, and also by their attitude towards God and towards each other and people who surround them. And she says down here, with my help with her with the Bible, she says that I help her to understand it not only rationally, but to feel it with the heart. And so very gracious, very humbling words, very encouraging words for us to hear. That God has brought these people into our lives, and that He is using us to be a blessing and encouragement into them in their lives. This is Jania, a friend of mine from English camp, and he hasn't given his life to the Lord, but he's become a good friend of mine and a very curious guy about different spiritual things. So please keep him in prayer. He said, I met Jacoby in English camp, where he is the leader of my discussion group. Him and his wife make a good team, a tandem of teachers, and they turn people's attention on things which people have to put their attention in, which was God or the Bible. Talking about myself, I will say that Jacob became my good friend and at some points a mentor. He told me serious things to think about, and I thank him for that. And then down here he just says that I would like to advance and to help others advance as well. This is Oli and Anna, good friends of mine for about 8 years now, which they stated here in their testimony. Oli's been one of my best friends. We were both very evangelistic. Both have had very similar journeys in the Lord and in our growth. Both fishermen in Alaska. He says here that we've done a lot of things together. Evangelism. We've lived together at times, worked on fishing boats in Alaska, prayed and worshiped together, and wrestled in our understanding of God and His glorious plan of salvation. He says, We know Jacoby's testimony and the stories of his life prior to Christ arresting him, and it's absolutely incredible to see the profound transformation in his life. It's been so encouraging for us to see the steady growth in character and Christ-likeness over the years. His passion for God and the spread of the gospel has been obvious from all the way back in the beginning when we met at Bible college together. He's proven himself to be one of the most studious and hungry for the truth of God's Word people we know. Then he says he's one of the most diligent brothers we know to dig into the truth of God's Word, to find answers and in turn be able to communicate that to others, with a shepherding heart, blossoming to lead people to God and to faithfully, as God has prescribed in His Word. And my favorite part, probably of all the testimonies that I received down here, he says, when we think of Jacoby, this verse comes to mind. For they have gone out for the sake of the name. Amen. That's what it's all about. Praise God. This is all by grace alone that I do any of this. And I was reading a Spurgeon quote recently. It said, that humility is thinking accurately of ourselves. And he says, if you're 2 inches off the ground, you're 2 inches too high. And our job is to be nothing. So really, I am nothing, and any grace that's evidence in my life of fruit or salvation is from grace alone. And some of these words, they might be, gracious, we'll say, but I'm thankful for them, encouraged by them, and it's completely God's work in a sinful vessel. This is Rima, one of the girls at the orphanage where we just started an English camp or English club 5 weeks ago. And we were chatting on the computer. She said that I was an unusual person because I was trying to make other people's lives better. And, I explained to her that I wasn't just trying to make people's lives better, but that I was trying to show them life, and that life was in Jesus. And then she just says here how much she likes the English camps we're doing. I did have a couple testimonies from other people coming in, but they were taking too long, so I went ahead and recorded this presentation. But I think that gives you an idea of who we are and what God's doing in our lives here. It says, currently, Jacoby and Lera lead a Bible study out of their flat, teach English to orphans, reach out to the homeless regularly, and we're working on publishing a tract in Russian, and we are praying and networking towards the future. So I've been doing a lot of praying, a lot of asking of God to provide for us a team, finances, souls, encouragement, all of that, a building, and networking. I've been jumping around the city to different events, different meetings, some different churches, meeting different pastors, and just exploring possible future ministry partners and what have you. This is just some pictures from our English camp at the orphanage. Like I said, we started this 5 weeks ago, and here's Kate here. She's helping us out with that. And some other pictures are playing a game here to help them learn English. Some of the girls, and they did a competition who could make the prettiest dress out of toilet paper, and she won. And then also we go out on Wednesdays on occasion. We took a break right now because my wife's studying for her final exams is intense. But next month we will continue going out to the homeless again. These guys go out in a van and bring them hot soup. Personally, Lera and I, we bring them small Gospels of John in Russian, and we bring them warm, fresh, clean socks sent from the United States. A lot of these people are permanently handicapped from a cheap drug called Baltushka, and just reaching out and ministering to them. And I'll tell you more about our vision with them and what we hope to do in the future. These are just some people as by way of accountability, because I was interning under Living Hope Church, and the internship was 6 months. After 5 months, I left because of some current concerns I had with basically the church government, the structure, and the philosophy behind the theology behind the church government, the church structure, the preaching. There was just a lot of randomness, not a lot of establish definitions of creeds or confessions, or defining what it was they held to or believed. In my opinion, it was too loose, and I wasn't trying to say my way or the highway. I tried to encourage some just discussion, group discussion around this, with the intention of beginning to define things or just understand things together as a team to grow in unity. And they just didn't share my convictions, so we moved on. But since I was no longer under their covering, I kind of came to be alone here, still with my missions agency, just no longer with that church. So I emailed this guy who had been at our missionary training center. His name's Joe. He's a pastor in the States. This is Glenn here. Joe and Glenn were both there teaching us a Bible counseling class. And so I just asked Joe if I could talk to him about some things, and if he would basically drill into my life in a spiritual way and hold me accountable on some things, and help me work through some issues. He's older and more experienced and has some wisdom, and so I thank God for him. This is Arkady. He was my accountability partner through the internship, and I'm still hoping that we'll continue that. We plan to continue that. He was in South Africa for a while and is extremely busy with his family, but we differ on our convictions on church governments and the things that I mentioned, but he's still love him as a brother. He's got a lot of wisdom, and respect what he has to say regarding counseling and spirituality and accountability and things like that. So this is Oli, who I've been keeping in touch with a lot over just talking on the phone from time to time, and we just encourage each other in our faith and in the Lord, and talk about everything and anything. And this is Paul Jones. He's a pastor at Reality Church in Tacoma. I met him when I was in the States raising support, and struck me as a really great guy, a really great pastor. We had a lot of like-mindedness, and so I emailed him and asked him if he would talk with me from time to time on Skype and just pour into my life, and I could bounce things off of him, get some feedback, some direction, some advice, and he agreed to do that. So we Skype. We just began last week, but we'll be Skyping. We plan every 2 weeks. This is Sergey Bermas, another pastor in Ukraine. Not meeting with him for accountability, but considering possibly serving at his church and serving there and helping their ministry. But at the very least, possibly just talking to him about theology from time to time, and making a good pastor friend here in the city. This is Will. He's a friend of mine from Bible college, and he just connected with me. We talked on Skype today, actually, and he basically is living in Boston now. He's originally from Idaho, and the Lord got him into a reality church plant out there, and has been working in his life because he was going through some hard times for a while. But I asked him if he'd like to Skype with me every other week, and so I can encourage him and pour into his life. So these are some of my accountability and Skype buddies and friends. Short-term plans. What is our vision? What is our mission in the next 1 to 2 years? It says that on the 23rd we'll have been married for 2 years, and I'll apply for permanent residence, so I no longer have to hassle with the missionary visa. This will actually allow us to do business or work in Ukraine if needs be. This is right outside the opera theater, a famous opera theater in Odessa. It's supposed to be the third most beautiful in the world, and this is about 10 minutes after we're officially married on paper. This is our marriage papers here. So let's see here. Our plans are to rent a building in the city center, probably in this area right here. This is near the train station, near the Privoz market. Odessa kind of wraps around the Black Sea, kind of a curve around it. It's a very long city, and there's no subway and there's no freeways. So it takes a very long time to travel through the city with a lot of grid-like random roads. And a lot of people don't have cars. So we'd like to be in a location where poor people can get, where normal, everyday people can get. Normal's the wrong word. I should say everyday people and homeless people can get. Just a strategic location in the city. And so, wherever God puts us, we'll be flexible and praying about that. But we're thinking tentatively about doing it in this area. There's also, right smack dab in the center of the city, a Presbyterian church that the PCA is connected with in America. And I'll be meeting with this pastor actually this week. We called him up and just talking about the possibility of maybe using this building and cooperating with them to maybe use the building on days when they're not using it. As you can see, it's a very beautiful church. This is actually where we were married. These are pictures of my wife's and I's marriage ceremony. This is outside the church, and it is in an excellent location, like right in the center of Odessa. If we are able, if God provides for us to rent a building, our plans are to open a simple coffee shop, some tables and chairs, make it comfortable in there, and create an atmosphere where we can reach out to the homeless once or twice a week, where we can do English clubs in there, where we can meet people for one-on-one discipleship, and where we can do group Bible studies. So this is our plan. And then in the next 1 to 2 years, I plan to learn the Russian language. And we want to bring in the homeless, the prostitutes, and less fortunates in the city to serve them, befriend them, and teach them the word in a safe environment. And here's some pictures of when we went out in the van or when we crawled under the city flats and just reaching out to the homeless in Odessa. We plan to start up a new English club there and to continue Bible study. This is a Bible study meeting that we had at our home about 6 weeks ago. And then, of course, continuing with one-on-one discipleship and just utilizing that location as a place to build relationships with university students and other unbelieving friends. Another short-term plan of ours is in 2014, after we get our own English clubs going for a good year, to plan our own English camp and to have people from the United States come over to help us with that. I do believe there's a good way to do short-term missions and a bad way to do it. And I've seen the fruit of this, both in the Ukrainian campers' lives and the foreigners that come over and help us teach them English and learn about God. And it's a very, very good time well spent, very fruitful ministry. Then we plan out of this to build a church plant team. And I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know how God's going to do it. But I'm praying, and I believe he's going to do it. I don't know if he'll do it out of this building, if he'll do it out of just Bible studies out of our home. It depends on what he provides for when he provides it. So this is completely in God's hand, hence the question mark. And then we'll launch a new church. And as you can see, we'll have a big organ with a big choir. So from this launching team, of course, we'll plant a church. And then hopefully, we're praying. We believe that God will, we know that God will bring a lot of fruit of this. We just don't know exactly what that fruit will look like. He's already bringing spiritual fruit out of the ministry here. Our short-term plans in the next 3 to 5 years after that, continue to work as God builds this church, and then take this fruit, this work that God's doing, travel back to the United States and tell people about it, show people that, what God is doing here. Invite them to join us, invite them to support us, and to become a part of the vision in spreading the gospel and being a lasting influence for the sake of the gospel here in Odessa. And then our long-term plans for the next 5 years, maybe 10 years out, we're projecting we'd like to attempt something so big that unless God is in it, it's certain to fail. We plan to raise $10 million, maybe in excess of that, not less, to build a large recreation ministry center with a church, with classrooms, that can serve the community in a variety of ways, and also to have the initial funding to staff that. We're going to need staff, we're going to need volunteers, and we're going to need leaders there. We want to build a quality recreation, discipleship center, and church with quality basketball courts, ping pong tables, pool tables, tennis courts, volleyball courts, running tracks, lounge areas, indoor, outdoor football areas, and bring the kids in. The public sports facilities in Ukraine are in terrible condition. The basketball courts, often they don't have nets. This one here you're looking at in the picture, it's they're real lucky to have a net on that. Often they don't have nets, or they're in bad shape, or the rims are crooked, they're not the right height. They have funky backboards, and the concrete often has grass growing out of it, or it's cracked and uneven. It's really hard to play basketball on. You can hurt your ankle. The ball is bouncing in odd directions. And this is really, really typical of the basketball courts. You can see down here that the soccer field is just grass and wood, and it's uneven. This is really typical. So if you have a quality soccer field, you have a quality basketball court, and things like that, the kids are just going to flock in there by the hordes. And so, of course, we'll regulate this, but we'll train disciples there, both academically and hands-on, through a hardcore gospel-saturated discipleship program. So we plan not only to teach people academically to be people on mission and to be gospel-centered, Christ-centered, cross-centered people, but to be actually doing the ministry as they're learning. In some of the curriculum, there's Porterbrook Network out of England, which has an excellent teaching curriculum, everything from home Bible studies to seminary level stuff. Tim Keller is endorsing it here. He says it's an excellent resource for equipping churches and individuals as we look at responding in a distinctive gospel manner to the needs in our nation and world. And this is actually right now being translated into Russian by some other missionary friends in Chernihiv, Ukraine, with Illuminate Publishing. And they are translating a 2-year program. So it's very likely we'll be using some of this curriculum at our training center. And I just lost my bubble. Let me fix this real quick. Let's see here. Sorry about that. I'll get it going. And open this up. Whoops. There we go. That should work. Okay, so, and we'll use this building to serve the city. Basically, we'll train out and send out other church planners. So what's our financial need? Prayer and action is appreciated to cover the gap between current support being received and what is needed to run a building and cover any necessary ministry expenses. So please do pray. Pray specifically for the need. Pray specifically for what we're asking the Lord to provide, and join us in prayer and or action, however the Lord leads you. The hopes are that the partnership might be much more than merely financial, but sending out by church or churches who would like to be physically involved as well as possible. I've had a couple friends, not many, but one or two say, well, you're out there, you're doing this missionary work, you should come back to the United States and get ordained at a church and have them send you out and support you. Well, that would be nice, but first of all, there's no guarantee that a church is going to do that. If I go back to the United States, that's a lot of work to move everything we have back to the United States. For 2, for 3, it seems really counterproductive. I mean, we're having a hard time getting people funded to go out to overseas and give their lives to missions. We are here. We're living here. We're equipped. We have the desire. God's given us thick skin and a heart of perseverance and a heart that's just trusting in Him and depending on Him. It seems really counterproductive. We're already here. We're already doing the work. So we're just looking for backing, and there are some churches backing us up. We would love to have more of a partnership. Maybe churches send a couple of pastors to join me. Maybe even people to be my not just peers in the ministry, but overseers, elders, people to come on short-term trips, people to help us serve in the city and to teach short-term or long-term, people who really physically, intimately connected with the ministry here, not just writing checks. So we are looking for that. We are praying for that. We sincerely desire that. So all of the budgets are completely transparent. Everything we're spending money on, it's all recorded. Transparent. It's all tax deductible through nonprofit missions agency International Messengers. So let's see. Since May of 2012, we received an average of $1,500 a month. Only $1,200 of that was one-time or is monthly consistent giving. So it kind of fluctuates, and sometimes people just randomly give these like one-time gifts. So we've averaged it like $1,500 a month, but our need is more than that. And there's a complete PDF breakdown of the whole need of where the money goes with overhead and taxes and ministry expenses and all of that. It's all accompanied with this video. Since February 2013, this amount, we believe, from looking at the report, it seems like it's increased to $2,000 a month, but we can't know for sure until people that have verbally given us commitments actually do that. So it's actually from what people have committed. We're at over $2,000 a month, but we've just experienced as missionaries that the verbal commitment don't necessarily mean that people are actually going to give. So we don't know where we're at, but we believe we're at least at $2,000 a month, and we need more like $2,500, and then above $2,500, we're hoping to rent a building. If God will increase this to $2,500, our current minimal need, we'll then need to raise that another $1,000 or $2,000 a month for the vision projected for the short-term plan. This will help us rent a facility in a high-traffic area. I have a friend who has bread shops here in Odessa, and he kind of explained prices to me. If you want to get a building of the size that I need in the type of area that I would like to be, this is the kind of money we're looking at. So $2,000 a month would cover the rent, ministry expenses, and probably furnishing it. We'd like to put a washer and dryer in there, sound system, tables and chairs, stove, and buy utensils for cooking soup and serving the homeless, and everything we need to get things started. So maybe even some significant one-time gifts would help us get things launched. Another option would be to work out something where we can use this Presbyterian church in the city center, or rent a room from another church or place that's already happening. In Ukraine, you can't rent out school buildings like you can in the United States. They won't let you do that. So we just need to cover ministry expenses if we had a building where we could rent it. So we need the money for the rent, and then maybe $500 a month just to have that cushion to be free to purchase ministry expenses, and that would include equipment for camps and other outreaches that we do and everything. So we're probably looking at a minimum need of, from what we're at right now, another $1,000 per month, and on up to $2,500 more. Yeah, that's correct. $2,000 to $2,500 more maximum, and a minimum of another $1,000 a month, and a bare minimum of another $500. But that may or may not give us what is needed to rent a place, and we may just have to do it that way and to serve God faithfully out of our home. So our current needs, we would like to get a building with showers so the homeless can come and take a shower, have a stove in there, utensils and pots, washer and dryer, tables, furnishings, books, decor, a projector. We need a projector, sound system, and possible repair costs. If we do rent a place that's cheaper, chances are we'll need to fix it up, paint it, make it cozy in there, make it presentable, a place where people will like to spend time with us. Future needs. The Recreation and Discipleship Center in the future will probably need a vehicle. We'll need to raise our support level for savings. And we'll have children in the future, including retirement. But we won't expect to start raising this for most likely another few years, maybe 5. Although we don't plan to retire until our bones won't move anymore. And then also people can give to finances for book translation or publication projects. I'm actually writing a tract right now. I have a guy doing illustrations for free, but there's tracts we can buy in Russian. There's books, there's literature in Russian that we can buy. There's books we'd like to see translated. And I'll mention that here actually. Ways to join us. You can send socks in a box. We've had 1 people do this so far, and 5 groups are currently doing it. We have like 2 boxes in the mail on the way, a couple more to be shipped off soon. And they send us a big box up to 70 pounds through a company called Meast of quality socks from America. And we, the people on the streets, they don't take care of themselves very well, hygiene-wise. So to give them clean socks that are quality, they love this. It's perfect because the socks here aren't that great of quality for one. It's a good way to show them love and to just build that trust bond and to start a new friendship with them. It's something that they don't take care of. So to give them a new pair so their feet can be clean and warm, it's a big blessing for them. But we know a lady that works with the homeless a lot. She said it's the perfect thing for us to be giving them. Summer English camps, if people would like to seriously begin thinking about coming with a group from their church, either coming by themselves as one person or bringing a group of 20 people. The more people that come, the more Ukrainians we can allow to come to the camp for English camp. So please consider coming and helping us not only teach English to these people, but teach the Bible, plan activities, and different things at the camp to help them learn English and learn about God. It's a really, really great ministry. These are just some more pictures there from the camp. Here we're doing an English assessment to see what his level of English is. We're doing some fun icebreaker activities. This is the meal room. And this was actually my classroom. Some of them are translators, some of them are just there at the camp who were the advanced English learners. So you can also you can join our church plant team if you're someone who is mature in the faith and has a desire to be a church planter or a missionary. You could consider coming and serving with us short or long term, or sending a team over to here's a picture of a team from South Africa and a smaller picture of some of the same team that came up, a big group of them to help us with our summer English camps. And here's our friends from Canada are in here, and a couple from the United States as well, all English speakers. You can give towards purchasing of tracts. Here's our friend that's illustrating tracts for us for free. Here's a book that I've used a lot in ministry. It's about those who are deal with suffering, serious abuse issues or sin issues, addiction issues in their life, but it's very applicable and practical for everyone dealing with idolatry and what it is that we worship. And this book is currently being translated in Russian. If anyone would like to help with funds for that, it would be greatly appreciated. We need upwards of around $3,000. But that project is currently underway, and there is still a need there. These are tracts from the Action Bible. I was communicating with this gentleman, David Cook, on email, and basically for $900 I can get 10,000 of these in Russian or Ukrainian or Arabic. And so we were thinking to get like $300 and start with like 3,000 of them and see how that goes, and then purchase more once we get rid of those. So you can consider giving towards those publication and literature projects. You can also give towards the future building fund of $10 million. Soon, at the end of April, we'll have a website up with a building fund describing that vision with a separate fund that doesn't go into our account, but it goes into the building fund account. So you can give into that, or you can just come and help us build whenever it is when we start building, 3 years from now, 5 years, 10 years from now when we start building. If you have a strong back or some construction experience, you could come and help us with that. If you have teaching experience, you can come and teach at the center, the Bible Training Center that we plan to have there. We'll have a hardcore discipleship boot camp, and then academic training with hands-on training. And if you feel that God is calling you here, if it's something you would seriously think about and pray about, then connect with me, please. We'll begin to talk and get to know each other a little bit, who we are, what it is we believe, and I would encourage you to begin learning Russian now. So if it is something you're serious about, I just continue, I would just encourage you strongly to make the commitment firm, to set it into motion and begin learning the language now. So for more in-depth info, you can see the handouts that accompany this video. There's a prayer PDF with a list of things you can pray for, and some other things. There's the financial breakdown accompanies this, and you can visit project.odessalife.com to see all of our previous monthly updates on there. And so it looks like that's it. Please pray for Ukraine. Please pray for Odessa. Missions exist because worship doesn't. God bless you. I thank you for your time. Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. God bless.